Hello, everybody, and welcome to the December 20th, 2018 edition of the Ephrom Josine Show. I am your host, Ephrom Josine, and yesterday we covered Donald Trump's decision to remove all troops from Syria, a decision that I was in complete support of, for the record, which I found to be a little odd. Because then Laura Ingraham, who on a side note, I've gotten her confused with Loomer too. She's not the one who puts Twitter.com under citizen's arrest. That was Loomer. I get them confused sometimes, so just for the record. Went on her Fox News show and titled a segment, Left Freaking Out Over Syria Troop Withdrawal. Which is weird, because I noticed more Republicans being angry at it than anything else. Don't get me wrong, there are establishment, I'm going to oppose Donald Trump on only the things that he's actually right on. And not do anything about deregulation or tax cuts or anything like that. Democrats who are complaining about this. However, for the most part, it seemed to be foreign policy experts who have been wrong every single time. People like Marco Rubio, who we covered yesterday, and Lindsey Graham, who were angry about this. This decision, however, caused Secretary of Defense James Mattis to resign. Now, in case you haven't been paying attention to Mattis's views, I'm just going to read this from the intellectual source of Wikipedia. Quote, Mattis believes Iran is the principal threat to stability of the Middle East, ahead of Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Mattis says, I consider ISIS nothing more than an excuse for Iran to continue mischief. Yes, James. Iran literally was sitting in a room one day and said, all right, boys, let's create ISIS. And they call 9/11 truthers crazy. With that said, isn't any surprise that he supported arming Syrian moderate rebels, which really just means not quite as bad as literal jihadists, as a way to fight Iran, which doesn't even make any sense. So basically, Donald Trump got rid of a neoconservative. I'm way happier than I thought I'd ever be during this administration. I'll say that right now. I mean, the only question, though, is who's he going to pick as the replacement? Bolton is still National Security Advisor. Actually, can you get rid of him? Like, even indirectly, get rid of John Bolton. That'd be amazing. But there's still a disturbing chance that the person he puts up as the next Secretary of Defense will be nothing more than a second Donald Rumsfeld, which is still a possibility, one that definitely existed when going into the presidency, and it appears is not going away. Anyway, while Donald has suddenly decided to do something good, his supporters are still a little weird. For instance, when being informed that for the second budget in a row, they may not be able to fund the utterly expensive and pointless border wall that didn't even work when George W. Bush tried something similar, they set up their own GoFundMe, currently at a goal of $1 billion, simply titled, We the People Will Fund the Wall. Now, I have nothing against the guy who did this. There's a guy named Brian Coffridge, who is a triple amputee veteran and a Purple Heart recipient, so I don't think he's a bad person. I want to make that clear. I disagree with him on this, but I think he's generally a good person. However, what? Weren't you already supposed to do this by paying taxes? Wait, Donald supposedly cut those. He didn't. So, he cuts your taxes. He didn't, for the record, but you think he did. And your response is to give him more money. Okay. Although, I thought Mexico was going to pay for the wall. Now GoFundMe is paying for it. Didn't see that one coming, I'll give you that. Imagine if he campaigned on that promise. Just in the RNC debates, he said, we're going to have a giant wall, okay? And I'm going to go to GoFundMe. And they're going to pay for it. Now, if the people I consider morons want to build a wall, that's fine, I guess. It's an infrastructure project and will put some people to work temporarily. It's not really an ideal solution to some of their problems, but it will at least stimulate the economy slightly. However, it should be known that the GoFundMe to get ladders to go over Trump's wall is at 19,000 out of 100 million. Your move now. The fact is, the only way we would completely get rid of illegal immigration is by putting not a wall on the US-Mexico border, but actually putting a giant dome, like in the Simpsons movie, over the US, which I think is what Pence is going to campaign on. Now seriously, think about it. We do the wall, it reduces it slightly, and then Pence goes out there like, listen, okay, I don't know why I'm making Pence sound like Kermit the Frog, but listen, what happens is, the wall decreases slightly. Now imagine if we put a giant dome around the country. And even that failed because there was a hole in it. Or no, not that there was a hole. Even that failed because there were explosives that could be used to blow it up. Don't blow up the U.S. dome, for the record. Once it's built, that would probably hurt millions of people. Put the entire U.S. in bubble wrap. I'm having way more fun with this than I should, considering that this would probably also bankrupt our nation. Instead of, now I'm a simple man, so I personally think the ideal solution is, for instance, don't let illegal immigrants go on welfare. But, again, simple person, Ephrom, Josine. But, okay, you know what? Let's finish off this week, the last week of our shows before Christmas, for the record, by talking about something that's always serious and has never had a phony scandal pointed at them. Planned Parenthood. I couldn't do it without laughing. But this one does not come from live action, believe it or not, or LifeSite, or Louder with Crowder, or any of that. But I'm still a little skeptical considering that their previous scandals involve, let me think, doing the completely legal act of selling things that weren't yet alive anyway, answering questions about BDSM that a girl directly asked an employee about, and realizing that eventually, if you call the police on every sexual abuse case, they'll stop coming anyway. What I'm saying is, I do not take these very seriously. However, this one comes from the New York Times, so I had my eyebrows raised. Ooh, what did they find? Planned Parenthood is accused of mistreating pregnant employees. Employers that champion women face accusations of discrimination against their pregnant workers, showing how widespread the problem is in American workplace. Now, these were made, but this piece was written by two, I assume, social justice advocates named Nathaniel Khrushchev. Wait. Khrushchev from an alternate dimension? Huh. And Jessica Silver Greenberg. Wait. I got nothing for that one. And it tells the story of a woman who got pregnant while working at Planned Parenthood. Here's what she had to say. Last winter, Miss Harrison told the Human Resources Department for Planned Parenthood clinics in White Plains, New York, that her high blood pressure was threatening her pregnancy. Can't you call in sick to work those? That's just not an option anymore. This article doesn't explain why she couldn't just do that. Was she limited in 6 days? Did she already use all of them? I don't mind the reason. You can point me to the reason. I'll gladly retract the statement, however, they don't give it. She sent the department multiple notes from her nurse recommending that she take frequent breaks. Managers ignored the notes. They rarely gave her time to rest or take a lunch break, Miss Harrison said. It's almost like she was there to work or something. The article also says that Planned Parenthood, quote, has been accused, some people say, of sidelining, ousting, or otherwise handicapping pregnant employees, according to interviews with more than a dozen current and former employees. Wait, more than a dozen? That's not a very large source. But okay. However, as this article also states, that's completely normal for bosses to do. This is because typically women who are either pregnant or early mothers can't do as much work as later mothers or childless women, or heck, even women in earlier stages of pregnancy. Sorry. If you don't like it, go overthrow capitalism. I don't care. Actually, don't do that either. That probably wouldn't work very well. Now, we could talk about larger societal issues here. Don't get me wrong. However, holding Planned Parenthood really responsible for this is very, very misleading, as this has been going on for decades. But you know what? Let's end the week by actually giving Courtney Krishoff some credit. We never do that on this show. Although I will say, this week she's also been more reasonable than normal, writing a very good article against pedophilia, which I actually really liked. It was Courtney Krishoff writing it, so of course there was a lot of, this is all the left's fault. And no conversation about, for instance, pageant moms who overly sexualize their kids. But, you know, you can't expect everything. Here's what she has to say. Should a company be financially responsible for a parent's choice to be a parent? My short answer is no. If a man or a woman decides to take paternity, I cannot pronounce that for some reason, or maternity leave, the company shouldn't be expected to pay you for a job you're not doing for months at a time. If a company wants to offer that perk to attract the best employees, that's on them, but I don't think the company should be forced to do so. Where's their right to choose? Okay, that was a good point. However, I would also recommend to Courtney in future reference, if you're going to make a principled position, you don't start off your article by saying, it's like we're living in an upside-down world. Planned Parenthood, famous for graciously offering to snip your unborn child from your uterus, unborn and child are oxymorons, by the way, is now accused of mistreating women who've chosen to give their babies life. You just said they weren't mistreated, though. And so, at best, you're contradicting yourself. But let's actually look a little earlier in the paragraph from the quote I used first. We have two problems here. One, Planned Parenthood sells itself as a supporter of a woman's right to choose. Yet in the cases where a woman chooses to have a baby, Planned Parenthood is as supportive as a butchered uterus. It's a little unknown fact that Planned Parenthood actually demands all female employees have at least 5 abortions a year. It's unknown because I just made it up. Anyway, I'm Ephrom, and good night.